funny friends, my funny friends, my funny, funky friends now. My funny friends, my funny friends, my funny, funky friends now.
Starring Drew Harrison and Will Abeles.
Welcome back to another episode of My Funny Friends. I am Drew Harrison, stand-up comedian from Nashville. As always, I got my lovely co-host with me, the daddy of Nashville comedy.
Oh, my goodness.
He just made his Zany's debut, and he is lighting the scene on fire. Got a couple albums out. Make sure you go check those out. It's the infamous Will Abeles.
Infamous Will Abeles, the daddy of the Nashville comedy scene. It's like this thing where like I say it and it's just above the top arrogance, and then someone else says it, I'm like, stop.
Will, I am all introed out because I saved all of my intro energy for yours. So if you could please tell our listeners who our wonderful guest is this episode.
Of course. And as always, thank you, Drew, for putting in such high energy into that intro. I mean, just
welcome.
the same tone the whole way through.
You
Felt
know,
great.
crushed.
Loved it. So our guest for this evening, a dear friend of mine, we moved to Nashville around the same time. I think all three of us.
Yeah.
Around the same time. Yeah. So I was a little later than you, but 2 months, 3 months, whatever it was. He's done comedy in New York. He's done comedy in LA. And we're going to talk about his experiences starting out in Charleston and his upbringing and all that good stuff. He's had a wild ride. Yeah. He runs a great online show called Show and Tell, which you can check out on YouTube and on his Instagram. And we're going to talk a little bit about his history being employed by TMZ, and he's about 2 blocks from me, so this is really fun that we're zooming 2 blocks away. But everyone, welcome Evan Berke, everyone. Evan Berke.
Hey, thanks for having me. Would have loved to do it in person, but there would have been an echo, same room,
Yeah.
we can
The
have
logistics,
the same room well.
nightmare logistics.
I would have just turned and
Yeah.
be like, Evan.
Yeah, right. So one thing I learned at TMZ, 2 mics, you're going to get an echo.
Yeah.
They're
And I would have walked into my own living room and you would have just been like watching Yellowstone on your own. Anyway.
Yeah. That's what, you might be the daddy of Nashville comedy. Well, I feel like the grandfather, the young grandfather.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah, man. No, I love that this is our first guest episode after the kind of the rebrand of such, because we all kind of did gravitate towards each other, being we all were, established in comedy elsewhere, and we moved to at least I moved to Nashville for more opportunities, more stage time, better shows. I don't know if that was y'all's driving force or not, but yeah, we somehow have become pretty good friends in our short time in Nashville. So it's only fitting, Evan, that you were our first guest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I started doing comedy in the South. One of my motivations was to kind of get back to the South and do comedy, better opportunities and stuff like that. But honestly, just the South is such a fun place to do it.
Love it, man. Yeah. So where did you start doing comedy? You started in Charleston?
So I started doing comedy in Charleston, South Carolina in 2009.
Okay.
I was 18 years old.
Oof.
I was a freshman in college at the College of Charleston. And I did my first open mic maybe October of my freshman year at a dive bar right around the corner from my dorm. I lived at a dorm in downtown Charleston right near Marion Square called College Lodge. It looks like this old motel.
It sounds like a terrible motel. You don't want to stay.
Yeah. Elvis actually stayed in there back when he was touring, and that was like an old motel.
That's
because they turned it into a college dorm, and the room was basically like an old motel room where there's 2 beds, and then there's a little sink and a bathroom, and then it's got the outdoor balconies and stuff like that. So every room is has an outdoor.
What a great idea
option.
for old, just rundown hotels. College dorms.
Yeah, no. But right around the corner on King Street, above Gilroy's Pizza. I don't know if you're familiar with Gilroy's. It's like the pizza is not very good. Pizza's not very good, but it's known as this place where, like, if you're a chick in college and you want free pizza, you know, you can kind of show them your chest and you'll get free pizza. So real classy spot.
I didn't know it was going that direction. I thought it was going to be like, hey, you're beautiful.
Yeah.
Here's a pizza. Not like, no.
Lift
But
your
now
shirt.
you're really beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
You
it's
know
gross.
what I want to see.
It's gross. Yeah, and then above that was this dive bar called the Upper Deck Tavern. Really grungy, kind of
Sounds
smelled
classy.
weird.
Upper Deck Tavern.
Yeah, the Upper Deck really just, yeah, it really, they called it a tavern. I mean, there was no food. I don't know if you need to have food at a tavern, but this place didn't
That's
have-
like,
didn't- yeah, this place had no food.
It's a deal breaker.
Yeah, and I was 18 years old. I was using my cousin's real ID to get in because,
excellent.
you know, as we all know, a lot of Jews look alike. And so people really...
Hey, your words.
Yeah, people had a hard time really. I mean, it was a real ID that scanned. It wasn't expired, and it worked. And so for like my first year of comedy was doing this open mic, and it was hosted by Dusty Slay, who's now become a name in comedy, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a real, I mean, that was my first year of comedy, was being a college student and doing the dive bar. And yeah, my first time I went up there, I ended up doing like 18 minutes. My first time doing stand-up.
Was it on purpose, or was it just
classic,
like, I didn't see the light. I didn't see the light.
No, it was a classic Evan Berke, and if you knew Dusty at the time, it was a classic Dusty, because Dusty was the host. But you know, at the time, Dusty was drinking a lot, and he liked to party. He liked to step outside and smoke cigarettes, and then Dusty was a man about town, so people would see him on the street, and then next thing you know, you're on stage like, where's the host? I guess I'll just keep going. And that's, I mean, literally, that was my first time doing comedy. And I, you know, I've always been good with public speaking. Like I was on debate team in high school and stuff like that. And so that wasn't really the issue. But yeah, I mean, and I just remember Dusty coming up, and I remember him asking, being like, have you done 5 minutes? I'm like, dude, I'm pretty sure I've done, like, I need to not be here anymore. Like, everyone,
please come take this
really
microphone.
got mad at me. I mean, no one got mad at me because everybody was just drunk. Like this was a, you know.
Yeah, you're downstairs seeing boobs, eating pizza, going upstairs and seeing Evan Berke do 25 minutes for his first time in comedy.
Yeah, I mean, really, yeah, I mean, interesting crew that was in that. You know, Derek Humphrey was there, New York comic, who Will Abeles knows. I don't know.
Yeah,
Drew,
I met
but
Derek,
yeah. So,
which is that just that to me is the best part, is Derek just standing in the back frowning.
No, I mean at the time, Derek would have, at the time, Derek would have been so mad at me. I was this new guy. I was young. I'm talking about like all this stuff, you know, but none of them knew that I was 18. They didn't find out my age until my 21st birthday.
Oh, genius! You kept that secret.
And then literally, and then I blew their minds. Did you? On my 21st birthday.
Can you imagine like wanting to celebrate your 21st birthday and you'd be like, it's my 21st? They're like, wait a minute. You've been hanging out for a hot minute.
Yeah, they're like, how long have we known you?
What was the bar's reaction when you whipped your like actual ID out? Were they just like, you're like, it's my birthday, and they're like, well, isn't your birthday like 6 years ago?
Yeah, and I guess at that point we stopped doing the Upper Deck. The Upper Deck was like my freshman year of college.
Okay,
that's where I was doing it. And then when I came back from my sophomore year, because I would basically go to college and I would go back to Atlanta, and I would do some comedy when I'd go back to Atlanta. Like they had the place called the Funny Farm connected to Andretti's. I don't know, Drew, if you ever did that in the South.
I did not.
It was not that enjoyable.
The Funny
but
Farm.
It was fine. Yeah, and then I would do like Laughing Skull, and I would try and do these little indie shows, and then I would go back to Charleston the next year and be like, God, I hope there's still a comedy scene. You know, I hope I'm still. And then the next year, like I went back, like Dusty was like nowhere to be found. The open mic wasn't really happening. I ended up finding out about shows going on at this place called the Palmetto Comedy House in North Charleston, South Carolina. It was connected to a Clarion hotel next to the Greyhound bus station. Not a safe neighborhood, like at all. Multiple times that I did shows there, police were called because people didn't want to pay like the $5. It was like 2-drink minimum or $5.
Right.
2-drink minimum or $5. And the amount of times that led to like the police being called was just insane.
Wild.
That's the indie show in the South, if I've ever heard it.
So then my second year, I came back talking about, you know, a whole bunch of different stuff because I was like pandering, we'll say.
Yeah. So you're going back and forth between Atlanta and Charleston, right? And Atlanta's where you're originally from.
Yeah, I'm originally from Atlanta, born and raised, my whole family from Marietta, Georgia, Cobb County.
Go Braves.
Go Braves. Go Braves. We did it.
Sure, go Braves. Here we go. Yeah. So what? Okay, so you're in Atlanta, right? And you decide to go to college at Charleston. So what about being raised in Atlanta, or if it did at all, contribute to you wanting to start stand-up comedy?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot, I guess. You know, I always felt like I had really funny friends. I always felt like like almost like super bad type stuff. But even like, you know, where you're like, oh man, like, are we like the funniest friend group of all time? You know what I mean? Like, I always thought that like each one of my friends was like hilarious. And I always thought that like combined, it would be like one of the funniest people. You know what I mean?
Thank you so much for going into stand-up comedy and not all forming an improv troupe.
Right, exactly.
And ruin it.
So instead, I absorbed all the things that I thought were funny about them. No, I'm joking. But no, I mean,
essence.
I don't know. It's like when I was growing up, you know, I just felt like I was up to a lot of, I mean, we got into trouble a lot. We were up to like no good. I felt like I was really kind of pushing like an envelope, but I was also working a lot. Growing up Jewish in the South provided like a different perspective on things.
Yeah,
so, you know, and then, I mean, I did debate team when I was in high school, which really, I mean, that, if anything, that's really what I think got me to want to explore comedy was because through debate, you have like the debate and argument side where you have like a topic and you have evidence and all that. But then there's this other side called like dramatic interpretation and humorous interpretation and stuff like that, where you're more like doing acting. Like you'll memorize like a 10-minute bit and then you and another person will perform it, or maybe you'll perform it together. Like I remember one of the first things that I ever did in debate was I took the play Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. I don't know if you guys know that movie or play, but it's about like 9/11. Basically took that and condensed it into like a 10-minute monologue with the help of like my debate coach. And it was all his idea. Like he basically was like, I think you should do this and I'm going to help you.
Some nice
and we did it. And I just won awards like every time I did it.
So awards just flying out.
I was in like 9th or 10th grade. My Spanish teacher was like, you know, because I was always trying to be funny in class, was like, he was like, yo, I think you should join debate. Like he had to recruit people because nobody was just joining, you know.
You mean the sign-up sheet wasn't getting full up on them? In Georgia? Come on.
Yeah. And so I started doing that and it ended up going really well. And then also at debate, they had this thing called like, you know, impromptu, where literally you would show up, you would show up to your little round, you would be given a word, and then everybody had to riff on that word, and then the judge would rank you. And
see, I would have done debate team if I knew this is what it was. Like they did not do a good job of advertising what this actually was. Like that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it sounds like a free class to UCB.
Right. So I straight up got recruited, and that's what really made me. I mean, the debate team is integral in all of it because, like, that's what made me realize, like, oh, I'm a public speaker. I can command a room, and I like doing it. And then, you know, one of the reasons that I got into comedy, everyone's like, oh, was there this moment where you're like, I have to get on stage? You know, like, what was that for you? I mean, that moment for me was my senior year of high school when my debate team, we were on our way to a tournament, University of Florida.
I just picture you in your Letterman jackets on
yeah.
the way to the debate team.
I mean,
Yeah, and you all have a tie.
I
The
did not
duffel
have a
bag.
letter.
Yeah, you're like the
No.
mathletes from what's the movie with
We were
oh
like
my-
a couple people had Letterman jackets. I mean, all the people with Letterman jackets in my school were either like, at least on the debate team, it was because they were in band also. Like no one got
okay.
the Letterman
All right.
jacket just for the debate.
Not the soccer
letter.
team or anything. Just
Yeah, you weren't for like Mean Girls when like you're the dude that walks
Yeah.
in. He's just super confident about being on the mathletes. Yeah.
But no, we were just like a normal crew. And actually, you know, my teacher did the coach did a really good job recruiting people that were cool and good at debate. And
Yeah,
that
you're
were
all
actually
cool. You're all
like-
definitely cool.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah. I don't know.
Definitely
We had
cool.
a good time. But no, I mean, I got into a pretty wild car accident on a debate tournament.
See, they were the
was
bad
like
boys of debate.
the whole.
Give them
yeah,
a second,
I mean,
all
dude,
right?
Okay. All right.
I mean, yeah, I mean, we, you know,
They all ride on
Halloween Day,
motorcycles.
2008, you know, we're driving and we get into
Yeah.
this kind of wild car accident. And then that, you know, ultimately, you know, when I ended up going to college, they didn't really have a debate team. I had this like weird, you know, reaction to this near death experience where then
Like,
I
that
was
was
just like, I'm going to go do jokes at a dive bar now, you know?
Right. Like that was like the car accident you talk about on stage, right?
That was the car accident. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so that happened on a school field trip.
Well, that's good. You were able to turn it into, you know, stuff for your bits, you know?
Yeah, I mean it's all connected. But no, I mean debate team, the biggest part of my upbringing and growing up in the South, you know, is, you know, then it helped me be confident, you know, because I wasn't necessarily the most confident kid growing up, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I grew up in
I agree with
Marietta,
you on that.
Georgia, Cobb County, you know, we're like at one point in time at my high school, you know, Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, you know, like both of his kids were going to my high school,
Yeah.
like all American wrestlers, like, you know,
Slowly becoming a wrestling podcast. It's gonna happen.
we had 3 Major League Baseball coaches' children at our school
From the Braves.
also playing. Yeah, well, Ned Yost's kids were
Yeah,
there.
Ned. I miss Ned.
Freddie Gonzalez's kids were there.
I don't miss Freddie.
I mean, yeah, right. But no, I mean, so, you know, we grew up like in East Cobb, you know, where East Cobb baseball, you know, they basically create Major League Baseball players. So like, you know, football was huge, lacrosse was huge. I wasn't good at sports, you know what I mean? So doing debate helped, you know, find a voice, you know, and just be comfortable with myself. You know, they made me, oh
Find
my
your
God,
talents.
I'll never forget.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll never forget my debate coach, maybe like 10th or 11th grade. Like we had video morning announcements and I had to go on the video morning announcements and like do my act out bit that I was going to like do at the tournament.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I was, I mean, it was cool, but also like, I don't know what people were saying. I wasn't getting
It
invited.
was cool to
stuff.
me.
I had my friends and we're still boys, like all my day ones, but like I wasn't getting invited to any external hangouts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
The
all
party
internal,
list wasn't
you know?
growing because of the debate team. I don't.
The
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
video
No.
morning
Yeah. When you're in high school, they're like, "Can you throw a football?" Not like, "Will you maybe be in a sitcom by the time you're 60?" They're like, "I need that instant gratification."
Yeah.
for the video morning announcements, because we did that in middle school. We didn't have that in high school, and I signed up and they kept making me a director, and it drove me mad because I was like, "Daddy wants to shine." You know what I mean? Like,
I'm on air talent.
yeah. I was like, "Excuse me, these braces need to glow." You know?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, well, I remember though that was my first experience, like when I did get on air, of being like, "Oh wait, you don't get like an immediate gratification for this."
You're
Like,
not
you,
a
like,
superstar.
Well, it just meaning like you make a joke and it's silent,
Mhm.
and so I remember being like 13, and that was the first, I think, real experience I had with bombing, essentially. Even though I don't know if I did or didn't. Like I had, you know, my friends watching and being like, "There's Will being an idiot," you know.
Yeah.
But that was like the first of like, whenever I bomb on stage now, I feel like I can look back at that moment of feeling this just like gut wrenching, just like awfulness and just embarrassment and just anxiety. And I was like 13, and somehow that translates to, I want to do this every night.
Something in you died, and you knew you couldn't get it back, so you had to feel that death with doing this every night.
Yeah, and I had to feel it at the ripe old age of 12 or 13 years old. Yeah, you really should.
At least you guys had like debate team, and then like the video. Like what sunk me into performance and being in front of people was, I was on my youth group's traveling sketch team. We went to churches doing Jesus sketches, and that's when I was like, I've got to be the center of attention.
Like Jacob in the Technicolor Dreamcoat and all that kind of stuff.
No. Like we did like sketches to songs. Like we did, Turn Around, the Total Eclipse of My Heart, Eclipse of the Heart. Yeah. We had a pretty badass sketch to that, and then we had our big closer, our big finale. I was Jesus on the cross. I'm dead. They put me in my tomb, and it's this little contraption we built on this plank with wheels, and when the thunder would hit in the music, I would slide, disappear, and we would have an exit sketched out to where I would go around the building and just come through the front doors like.
Oh, I didn't know that's how I was going to end, but that's even better.
People lose their mind. I was like 13, 14, and people are like, Jesus. Then I'm like, whoa,
then you just do a split. And you're
I just had doves coming out.
This is a wonderful insight into like maybe Evan's experience of being Jewish in the South.
Jesus, man.
Yeah, that is a thing that like I never really thought about growing up. Because like I'm from Maryland, right? Like I'm just below the Mason-Dixon line, but
you ain't in the South,
right? Like Pennsylvania, I think is like more so identifies with the South than parts of Maryland, right?
We don't like them either. It's okay.
They want to, right? Yeah, but there are a couple comics from the South that I know they're Jewish that like they've always been like, yeah, it's like a weird experience being Jewish in the South, and I was like, I don't know, but just hearing that story alone is like, oh yeah, okay. Got it.
Yeah, I was in fifth grade when Passion of the Christ came out. That was wild.
Was that an experience at school? Was that like you're walking in, everyone's going,
oh, dude.
Do you know what you did? And you're like, I'm 11.
Yeah, it became Passion of the Christ on the playground every day, dude. I just got chased. My hair got, I was gelling my hair, so everybody was messing it up. It was crazy. I mean, I also like when I was growing up, there were like Jewish camps, like sleepaway camps that you can like go to, but for whatever reason, my parents sent me to a YMCA sleepaway camp for many years in a row, and I had fun. It was YMCA Camp Thunderbird, Lake Wiley, South Carolina.
Nice.
Drew, do you know about it?
I don't, man. I went.
It's right near Carowinds.
I never actually got to go to like camp. Like my mom was like, "You're going to be a baseball player." So every camp I went to was baseball camps for like weeks at a time.
I had like Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, and that was like my secret growing up. Like Cub Scouts, like everyone was in Cub Scouts, but when I kept doing Boy Scouts through high school, that was like I didn't let anybody know. Like I had a friend.
That's rightfully so. That's fine.
Yeah, I had a friend named Calvin, and like we used to talk about it as like it was almost like Calvin and I were dating, and we weren't comfortable coming out. And that was like, and so we'd see each other at school and be like. So
Scout's honor.
I'll see you tonight. And then like when I got my Eagle Scout, like all of my friends were like, "You were in Boy Scouts?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I just didn't tell you because you're all bullies."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so you're at this sleepaway camp and
so I'm at YMCA camp, Lake Wiley, and I mean I went there starting very young, and I'll never forget. I mean, a couple of moments like there was. I remember the first year I went, I was maybe 8, and my brother was going to the camp with me. He was 4 years older, but I was, in a different cabin or bunk. And I just remember every night the counselor would read a Bible verse to everybody, like everybody would get in a circle on the floor. But he would make a point to be like, Evan, you don't have to.
And you're 8.
And it just like singled me out to the whole group. like immediately. And that's like, and I don't know why. Maybe I made a joke that's like, oh, I'm Jewish. Maybe I shouldn't. Like, I probably did. I was always trying to get a laugh. You know what I mean?
Right. And he's
So
like pointing at you directly, and he's like, except for you go over there, you're fine. You can go like pick up pine cones.
Put your
honestly
fingers in
think
your
that-
ears and go la la la, and we'll tell you when we're done.
Yeah, I don't know. It was very weird, but no. And so then, I mean, there were a couple of, and then they would do, we would go to. I mean, there was a lot of church stuff at this camp, and I'm like, I don't think my parents ever really knew, but it was fine. I mean, I'm all about it though. You know what I mean? Like, whatever.
I mean,
go.
Right. Yeah.
It's better to lean into it, you know what I mean, than be caught off guard because it's everywhere. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I love. I don't know. This is a pretty good time to transition into like doing comedy in the South. What's the weirdest thing someone has been weirded out by what you said on comedy on stage and come up to you after show?
Oh my gosh.
Like I, for instance, I had a joke that used to be about Jehovah's Witnesses, and it was just about how you would, in the South, sometimes you'll run to your mailbox in your underwear. It's just a fun game we play. And then I talked about how the Jehovah's Witness came around the corner. They caught me. I had to listen to their spiel, but
yeah.
They came when I got off stage. I had a guy just hand me a Jehovah's Witness card.
No,
he didn't say a word. He didn't say anything. He just handed me the card, gave me and walked away.
They placed a bomb on your card.
I was like, what the fuck? Did I just get like cursed or like what just happened?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it's not even like so much about my religion so much as it'll be like people react strong like politically. Like I remember I was telling jokes about Mitt Romney back then, and some guy just decides to, in the middle of my set, just be like, excuse me, I gotta ask, do you pay taxes?
That always starts great.
Do you even pay taxes? Because at the time, like I was maybe 21. You know what I mean? And here I am having opinions on Mitt Romney and the president, as if like any of the real like policies would be affecting me at that point. And I just remember the guy, and that was a real moment for me, being like, "Oh gosh, like I don't know how I come off to this. I don't know how I come off to this guy." But he assumed that I felt a certain way when really I was just like trying to like make fun of Mitt Romney, because we all were, weren't we? I think.
Yeah.
I thought
everyone's
so.
making fun of Mitt Romney.
I mean, aren't we
it was so much fun
like,
making fun of Mitt Romney. Yeah.
Yeah, and the guy just goes, "Excuse me, let me ask you, sir, do you pay taxes?"
Did he call you sir at 21? Like calling a 21-year-old sir is probably the best part of all of it. You're just like, you hold your ID up, like you're just now able to drink, and now all of a sudden you're a sir. Sir.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
I just was not. Yeah, I was like, well, I'm gonna hold off on my Jesus bit then.
Yeah.
I did one of my first shows ever, like longer sets ever. I was back in Hagerstown, and they had me do a show at midnight, and I was working on this bit about, I didn't really know what the stimulus package was in 2010 or 11, whenever that was happening, but it was Obama's stimulus package, right?
Oh, you babies. You babies. Do y'all even pay taxes now?
I don't. I do not pay taxes. I just charge it to my credit card and then cry. But I just knew that this thing existed, and I made a joke of like, I don't have a car in Boston because Obama didn't give me one in the stimulus package, right? And I just said it, and it was working well in Boston, and in Hagerstown, some guy just yelled out something about Obama, and my dad was in the audience with my mom, and he turns and goes, "I think Will might have made a joke too smart for this audience." And I think I was on stage for 4 more minutes, and I got just yelled at so much that I was like, I'm not going to talk about politics on stage for a long time.
Yeah.
I still barely talk about it.
I hate talking about it.
Yeah.
But that's why I like being in the South, because I think it forces you to not talk about like politics, religion.
Well, that's the two things, right? You don't talk about politics and religion, right? Yeah.
And you just don't lean on those things. Like those things do work in certain clubs and rooms and stuff like that. And it's always good to have like that, those things in your back pocket,
Yeah,
have
sure.
those jokes. But I don't know. I don't know. I like doing comedy in the South because it is people that just want to talk about like life. They want to talk about like
they really
the
just want to have
hole
a
in the
good time.
bucket.
Until you get off
You know what I
stage,
mean?
sometimes
Like,
that's when the real
we'll have a good
conversations
time.
start happening. You get off stage and someone's like, "Well, let me talk to you about this," and you're like, "Can I just have a shot and go home?"
I love.
No, my favorite part of at the end of a Southern show is when they go, "What are we doing after this?"
like on Thursday night, Zanies,
what are we doing after this? I don't know. What do you have in mind?
You tell me. We're in Marfa, Texas, and I'm by myself.
You tell me we're in Carrollton, Georgia. I don't know what is here.
That's what I love. Because it's a roll of the dice. It's a coin toss every time when someone buys you a drink after the show. A lot of times, sometimes they just want to appreciate you, and to do a tip of the cap. Sometimes they feel like they rented you out for the next 30 minutes. You know what I mean?
Guy in Wilmington. Remember the guy in Wilmington that just was like, "I'm the biggest fan of comedy," and then just paid for us for the rest of the night.
Yeah. And then he met a girl at the bar we went to, and he's like, "All right, fellas."
See you guys. He's like,
yeah. We didn't pay for a drink at all that night. It was amazing.
Yeah.
You didn't pay for a drink. I
gotta let you go. Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing comedy in Charleston, and you end up in Los Angeles, right? That was your next destination.
Well, no. So after Charleston was New York. Yeah.
Oh, so you were in New York before LA.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I realized that. Okay.
Yeah, so I graduated from college 2013, moved to New York 2013, and I was in New York from September 2013 until like May of 2017.
How did we not run into each other? Yeah.
Sorry. Well, I wasn't doing comedy as aggressively. I would do comedy here and there. I was producing some shows. I was doing mics, but I got to New York and I immediately got like a corporate job.
So I was going to ask, what degree did you graduate with?
Media communications and creative writing.
Okay.
Which is just the most lucrative
job,
starting out.
Well, what's funny is I got to New York, and within about 5 months, I ended up getting a job at one of the top corporate crisis and financial PR firms on the planet. The New York office is receptionist and front office assistant. And
yes.
So literally, I was the first person everyone saw, guests, employees, everything. And I ended up becoming like good friends with people. Like and I had to be at work every morning at like 6. No, what time did I have to be there? Like 6:30 a.m. every day.
Put the bagels down. You're making sure all the K cups.
I'm putting the bagels down. I'm turning
coffee's on. Because there's one person doesn't like K cups, so they want coffee in an actual pot. And then you're also putting in the Starbucks order for the
But my colleague here, the guy that just walked in, used to be like the spokesperson for the Pentagon, so I'm like, oh, these are cool people. You know what I mean? I'm like, I am in here right now. I'm fielding calls from New York Times all day type stuff, So it was, so I don't know, like I got to New York and I immediately found myself in this weird world.
Yeah.
And it was a great company where I was, it was a British company. So really great benefits. I was getting I was getting 5 weeks paid vacation a year plus an additional 10 sick days a year.
And you're a receptionist.
And I'm the receptionist.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
Paying attention, America, huh? You seeing this?
So
normal for everyone else, amazing for us. Yeah.
And not only that, I'm at this company that likes to give people a shot. They like to promote people internally. They basically build up people that become really great communications professionals, and then they go on to become like the head of communications at Bank of America. That's like the development program of like this company and like kind of what they do. And so I was like, I got to New York and I was doing comedy, and I was definitely the comedian in the office. I was
going to ask, did you bring it up? Like, was that the thing you kind of did? Because you're what, 22, right? You're 22, 23. And that's the thing you had to bring up, no matter it was like, no matter what it was like, yeah, sure, I'm just answering phones now. But when I get out of here, I'm a stand-up comedian.
Well, less than a year before, I was on the cover of the Charleston City newspaper with them being like, oh my God, local comedian leaving. So I'm like, I use that in my job interview. I'm like, oh, you guys are a PR firm? You should see the PR I did for myself. Imagine what I could do for the clients here.
Say it, bro. Hey,
and so
I love it.
Yeah, I've seen that cover. Yeah. That's a handsome young man on that cover.
So, yeah,
very photogenic. So I got
to the office, and you get to New York, and that's when you immediately realize, holy shit, I thought I was funny, and I'm not.
No one cares,
and nobody cares. Yeah, nobody cares about that cover. You know what I mean? Like, and
right.
And you realize like New York's exhausting, and like and so
and you're always broke for the first 5 years.
Yeah,
in my case, the first all of it.
Yeah, and I really liked my job. Like, I liked the community, I liked the people, and the job they did a really good job of keeping people like hanging out with each other and all that stuff. So I had that job for 18 months before I got promoted to the creative video team within the company.
Nice.
And then I did that for about another year and a half. And again, all the while, like I'm, doing stand up, I'm producing a show at Much More's, I
didn't get into Much More's until like
Williamsburg,
Yeah, like around the time you left would have been around when I discovered Much More's. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was doing the Jeff Lawrence, Laughing Buddha shows to get tapes and stuff.
So we must have done some shows together then if you did Laughing Buddha.
Yeah, but then there just came this moment where I was like, I don't know, my job felt like that was my future. Like that could be my thing. Like, I am plugged in here. This is a great company. I could stay here my whole life if I wanted to. And I probably could have.
Yeah.
I could have just continued to grow there. But after a certain amount of time, I was getting really antsy where I'm like, man, I moved here to New York to do comedy, and my job doesn't really allow that. And if I keep going deeper and deeper into that, I really can't do comedy. And then there were a couple of projects we worked on that just made me realize, like, I can't do this for a living.
Yeah. The moral side added up.
Yeah. You just combine a couple of companies that aren't, or you work on a project where, a couple of companies are combined that aren't all that popular, and you're just like, ew.
Yeah.
It's like, I get it. Someone's got to do it. And it ain't going to be me.
It's so weird day at work when you realize your company's a little.
It's an absolute nightmare.
That's when you realize why you get 5 weeks vacation.
Yeah.
Comply.
Go Vans.
Or you work for a company that is icky and doesn't give you 5 weeks vacation.
Right. But it was still a great company, great people. And the work that they do is pretty great across the board. But I got to a point right around 2017 where I was just like looking for other jobs. I was just always looking on LinkedIn, like, I want to do something in production or media that's a bit more like cool. I just want to do something that's, and so I remember looking on LinkedIn and I saw a job posting for a field reporter at TMZ.
So you got that from LinkedIn?
Oh yeah, I got it from a quick apply LinkedIn. You just quick apply and you don't have to even fill out anything.
Yeah, you don't do anything. Yeah,
you don't do anything.
Anything from LinkedIn. Nothing from LinkedIn in a decade.
Yeah,
and you got a field reporter from TMZ.
And I just had a good feeling about it. I'll never forget. I called my girlfriend and I said, "Babe, I applied for a job at TMZ today. I'm probably going to get it. Do I take the job when it's offered?" And she was like, "Oh, you're rushing it. You're rushing it." I'm like, give it 10 days. And 10 days later, they offered me a job. Wow. And they wanted me like literally they interviewed me Wednesday. And it was like, we want you to fly to LA and start Monday for training.
Wow.
So what did you do? Did you fly out and did you have to crash with people or?
Oh no, I quit my job.
Well, obviously you quit your job.
So I had just gotten promoted at that company. They had just promoted me.
Yeah.
But the way that their promotion system worked was I had basically been like the admin person for like the creative team for like 2 years.
Right.
And I wanted to be like a production manager, and they promoted me to production assistant, which I don't think they realized that job title is like atrocious in America. Like,
sir, excuse me.
But you know what I mean? Like, not when,
No,
when
I
you
know, I
work
know, I know,
in-house at a creative agency and you're working across all of these different projects,
Yeah.
and to the point where you're like, actually, basically they just needed a way in their hierarchy
Yeah.
to like call people a certain thing. And because
Right.
it just didn't make sense. And it was like, I can't, because basically I would have been locked in at a production assistant job title for like the next 2 or 3 years.
Which, how?
That's just the way that it would have worked.
Like, you know, I mean, just how? Because
Like,
you do like one production assistant job and you're like, oh, I got this. Like, I understand. Like, it's like kind of tough the first, you know, maybe few days on set and then, or whatever. And then you just like,
and it's
oh, I got this.
And the way that this team was structured, it was like, we were a film team of 8 with like 2 executive producers, a couple of senior producers, a couple of producers, and then me, like the production manager the day up. Like, I'm not a production assistant. And in any case, it was semantics in any case.
Yeah,
but
a slap in the face nonetheless.
But yeah, exactly.
Because I had been a production assistant for like the past 2 years, and finally they were giving me that job title, but I was going to be locked in at it for. But anyway, I wasn't happy with the content we were creating in terms of like, it was great content, it was high level, high budget, but it just wasn't exciting to me at that time in my life. So basically, I flew out to LA, and they put me up in a hotel for 3 weeks, and
that's TMZ. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and literally, I flew into LAX. There's a hotel right near there, and then the TMZ offices are in. What's it called? I forget what it's called. Playa Vista. So right near the airport, actually. Yeah. And so my first day, dude, I went in there, and like, no joke, my first hour is just like, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Then they just give me a bag with a camera and battery, and they say, get out there. You're going to meet this dude in Beverly Hills and start training.
It's a run before you walk situation.
Oh, yeah. My first day.
There's no like, hey, like, you know, we're going to wean you into this, and like, you're going to follow so-and-so. They were just like, get out there, like, full on night crawler.
My first day at TMZ, I tried to conduct interviews with Helen Mirren, Adam Sandler, and Julio Jones, all in Beverly Hills.
Very minor people.
All pretty much at the same intersection, but just throughout the day. Right where there's like, it's this intersection where there's like a couple of like really, they're not even nice restaurants. It's just like the restaurants that are in Beverly Hills. Yeah. And they put you out there, and then. So I spent 3 weeks just learning how to do the job on the streets of LA with, funny enough, the same guy that they tried to move to Nashville. When TMZ tried to launch in Nashville, they brought a guy named.
Funny.
I don't want to name names here. Name's Dante. No. But they tried to bring Dante here. And
I don't want to do the thing, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Dante's the man, actually. Yeah, so he's the one. Funny enough, Dante interviewed Dusty Slay outside of Zanies in like 2015, and it ended up on the TV show, probably because they were just starving for content that day. Right. And Dante's the one that trained me. So that was a pretty cool thing.
Little full circle thing there.
Yeah, so I spent 3 weeks hitting the streets of LA.
That sounds terrifying to me.
For those 3 weeks, within those 3 weeks, I got 5 interviews published on the website. In my first 3 weeks of training, 5 of my interviews got published on the website. Then they sent me to New York to do the job.
Oh, so you went back to New York.
Then I went back to New York to be the guy running around the streets, where I did it for about 6 months in New York.
Okay.
And then winter was fast approaching, and I was like, I cannot hang outside trying to interview celebrities in this winter, and I want to be productive. At the time, Migos was like, you know what I mean? This was 2017. Super Bowl's coming to Atlanta. Like, Atlanta had everything going on, and I volunteered to go down to Atlanta for the winter, hire and train a couple of people that would be in Atlanta moving forward. And I would just get content because I knew where to hang out. Like, I knew where celebrities hang out in Atlanta.
Right.
And so I did that for a couple of months before then kind of going back to New York.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Okay.
So then this puts us at 2018.
Okay.
So at 2018.
So winter of 2017.
Then
Going
Winter of
into spring of
2017,
20
I'm in Atlanta.
Okay.
in 2018,
In
you're
spring.
back in New York. But if I remember correctly, did you go back to LA though?
So then I went back to LA.
Okay, all right. I was like, am I losing my mind? Okay.
So then I go back to New York.
So let me look at the notes. Let me look at the notes that I took.
See, but the great thing is, like, Will, you knew this. This is all new to me, so I'm just following along.
So I go back to New York.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So I go back to New York, and then I get a couple of really incredible interviews, some really great, TV clips, and then I take like a 3 to 4 month break from TMZ.
And they were okay with that. They were just like, yeah.
I mean,
just
you crushed it, so it takes some time.
Well, no, technically I quit.
Okay.
Oh,
I was just to make a long story short, the job was exhausting.
I can imagine. Like it sounds absolutely atrocious.
And spiritually, it was just tough. And my whole objective was to kind of, I want to just create as much content as I can in the short amount of time as possible, because I don't know how sustainable the situation will be for me. So while I was in the field for TMZ, I was obsessive. I really was like, I don't know how sustainable this is. So I want to get as much content as I can while I'm working here. And so I burnt myself out. And the place is also burns its people out inherently. But so I took a little break. I quit. But then come September of 2018, they called me back. They're like, listen, we know you don't want to be in the field anymore, but we got a job in LA on the news desk. You'll be a news reporter on the show, but also in real life. What do you think? And so I went out to LA for a year and did that job, where I was in the office every day. I was like an on-air video correspondent on the digital stuff.
Okay.
I would report on TMZ Live. I would pitch on the TV show every now and then. But my main on-air duties was part of their digital Instagram and YouTube show called TMZ Newsroom. But then, I was on TMZ Live and in the other show quite a bit. And, my job there was to produce stories. So instead of my videos being published, I had to
promote the videos.
No, I had to find stories. Like I had to find news stories. Like I had to get dirt.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
That seems exhausting on a different level.
A tip comes in, and I have to investigate it and determine whether or not it's real or not. And then, and so that's what I then did for a year before.
I was going to say, did that burn? Yeah. Did you get burnt out on that?
Yeah, I mean,
yes. And that's why I was only there again for a year. And I did that for a year. And then I left TMZ in September of 2019.
And
that's when I moved to Nashville. That's fun.
Okay.
And you're still doing stand-up this time, right?
So when I go to LA,
you're doing
really
the Comedy Store.
So when I quit TMZ in New York,
I
really started getting back into stand-up a lot. Okay. Like, Roy Swin? I started co-producing that show with him that he does in Brooklyn. I don't know if you know Royce, but he does a bunch of
Royce. Sorry, I heard the S in the wrong place.
Yeah,
I heard Royce Swin.
So the Smash Comedy Show. I was co-producing that with him, and you're
the one that ignored my email to do that show.
Well, no, Royce
it's all coming back.
Royce handled the booking.
Sure, blame him.
And so I started getting really back into comedy, and then one of my motivations for taking the gig in LA for TMZ was, yes, I'm interested. It'd be really cool to be in the newsroom. Like I was in the TMZ newsroom, the TMZ news meetings every single morning at 6 a.m. hearing like, what are we doing today? How are we going to do it?
That's crazy.
Like, why are we doing it? But I was also like, burnt. I hadn't really, I mean, I'll be honest. I didn't really do much comedy in New York. I didn't give myself a fair shot to figure out if I was a good comedian in New York because I already knew. And I felt like by doing comedy in New York, while I knew I wasn't that good at the time, I was just going to be exposing myself because I wasn't putting myself out there all the time. I had these jobs every time.
Right.
Like I had these jobs, and, you know, the TMZ job, I could justify not doing comedy a bit easier because I was at least like on TV and interviewing celebrities. Right. And I'm still performing and I'm still producing content. And ultimately, I've always seen myself as like a guy that wants to like host a talk show or something.
Yeah.
And so this was like a way for me to do something, because you can't just say you can't just say, oh, I want to host a talk show and I'll only do it if the perfect opportunity comes along. It's like, well, if someone's giving you a camera and a license to talk to celebrities, it's like, well, maybe this is your start, you know?
I mean, and you never know where these things are going to lead. And it's always funny where you're like, oh, this is the thing that's going to work. Right. And then it usually crashes and burns.
Right.
And then
but leads to something else.
So far beyond what you thought was going to be the thing that helped you out ends up being the thing that helps you out. Right. Yeah.
So then what after that? Like you do all of this with TMZ, it takes you to different cities. Now what brings you to Nashville?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, so while I was in Los Angeles, I really was doing comedy a lot. Like I would work during the day and then I would go do the open mics at night. And
Nice.
LA has I mean, maybe New York has a similar open mic approach, but in LA they have this just these like slotted mics. You have like Bert's
LA's
back
a
room.
bit tougher, I think, for open micers from my few experiences.
It can be, but like it's also like, for me, I saw it as a way to be more business minded, because you have these places where you can go and you can sign up in advance and you know that, oh, I'm already on the list and I know that this is a room of 8 people. And I mean, you pay $5 to do comedy, and but normally at a mic you might buy a drink or something, but it's just a workout room. And so it became this thing where I'm like, okay, if I'm working on 10 to 15 minutes and I know that this is the 10 to 15 minutes that I'm working on, well, then I can slot myself in 3 5-minute rooms, and each room is filled with 8 different comedians and we're all doing time, but at least I can work out bits and I'm not waiting to see if I'm going up. I'm not driving 2 hours somewhere.
You knew exactly when you were going up
and where to be
and
at.
so I was able to very strategically, like after work, go do 15 minutes of comedy and work it out, and then do it again the next night, then do it again the next night. And then one of the things that was most amazing for me about LA was I got hooked up with a guy that produced a show at the Comedy Store, a Friday night show in the original room at the Comedy Store.
Hell yeah.
And I started doing that, and I would just have these like incredible sets where I felt like I was like levitating. Like the room just the room, you could just feel something going on in there. And people come up to you after the show and they're like, don't stop, man, don't stop. Like, I like what you got going on. Like, don't stop. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting this at the Comedy Store, and through TMZ,
got a little bit of weight to it,
Right.
And through TMZ, I was able to invite some people out to my show that I wanted to see me, like,
right.
And then a couple people came out. One person that we all know and respect, like, this person's art, and this guy came out, sat front row, watched
Kanye West.
No, I mean just a showrunner of Nickelodeon, the guy that created all that, created Kenan and Kel.
Yeah, so that you want to see your set.
Just a guy that I was able to. We were able to run a really good story about what they were doing. We were able to run that on TMZ, and then through the conversation, hey, I do comedy. Hey, he's like, hey, man, I'd love to come see you. Next thing you know, he's there, and we're just talking, and doing those shows at the Comedy Store were really great. And then when I left TMZ, I just found myself kind of at this weird moment where I'm like, you know, I pretty much went straight from TMZ to a full-time remote job.
Right.
So I wasn't like in LA without a job, like, oh, what am I going to do now? Like, I could have stayed in LA. I had a remote job that paid fine and I could have stayed, but I had this conversation with myself where I was basically like, my whole life is on the East Coast. My whole family's on the East Coast.
Yeah.
I've never really felt all that comfortable here. If I stay in LA, why am I staying here?
Yeah.
And the answer was because I'm trying to be famous. And I had to leave immediately. Like, I had to leave immediately. It's like, I can't, like, that would have been the only reason I would have stayed in LA. I didn't like living there enough. I didn't like the comedy scene enough to stay. It's not where I really saw myself grinding it out. I was like, if I stay here, it's really because I think I'm going to get famous here.
Yeah. Well,
and
I
can't stay
but that's
here.
LA, right?
And I can't stay here. I have to leave.
Yeah.
I can't. And that was just a conversation with me being like, okay, is that what I want to put first in why I'm alive and why I'm doing everything I'm doing? And I was like, so now let's figure out, because now it's like, no, like now how I ended up in Nashville was like, I want to continue doing comedy.
Right.
I want the stakes to be high. I want to work with people that I respect.
Yeah.
But I really no longer care about like doing anything that's like I'm in no rush anymore, right? Like
like we talked about this, like longevity is now appealing,
yeah,
right? Like just the
having
process,
a life, you know?
Yeah, having a life in the process of like having the career you want based on your own standards and the way you want to approach it is so much more appealing. That, and I was told this early on in comedy, and I know some guys, they don't believe in it, but I disagree. Whatever, teach their own, fine. But comedy is a marathon. It's not a foot race. It's not a 400-meter sprint, right? You can do the 400-meter sprint, you can find some success, and then you burn out and you disappear, or who knows what happens. You go into acting and you're on whatever. But yeah. But there's just like, I don't know. I think it's a better process to just learn who you are, what you want to talk about, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, it's also like I made this metaphor earlier today, and I don't know if it's a good one, but it's like, imagine you're like
please drop it here.
No, it's like imagine you're like a baker and you're trying to like earn credibility and respect in the world of baking, and it's like, yeah, you can go work at like the best bakery in the world, right? And you can rely on your credibility in baking to be the fact that you work at the best bakery in the world. But someone is still going to ask you when you're at your house to make a cinnamon roll. And it's like, so it's like you can rely on the fact that you're doing it in the place that is known to be the best. But at the end of the day, you have to become the best. You cannot rely on the scene you're in to give you the life and career and comedy that you want. And I didn't want myself to start using a scene I'm in as like a crutch or something like that, where it's like, no, like I need to go to a place where I'm going to become good, because I went to a place that we were told you go, that's good. And everyone's good. But like, where can I go to get good?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great, I think that's what Nashville has been so good about, is, at least from my experience of moving here, everyone really cares about stand-up, right? There's all the other stuff we have to do these days, right? You got to do TikTok, you got to do Instagram, you got to do all the stuff. But all these comics are showing up at the mics, they're showing up at the bar shows, they're showing up at the club shows, they're working new material, they're writing constantly, and
they're showing up for each other.
They're showing up for each other, and everyone's very supportive for the most part, and and it's good. It's like, and I think there's a healthy level of competition too, where it's like, if you see someone get an opportunity that you wanted, you don't do the New York thing or the LA thing where you're like, why is that not me? You go, you support their set, you watch it, and you learn from it, and you buy them a drink afterwards, and then you go back and you focus on yourself, right? So I think there's something there. One thing I did want to ask you, when you're working at TMZ, you're in LA, was there a weird, like, I imagine you probably performed with some pretty cool people at the Comedy Store. Was there ever a thing of like, oh, Mr. TMZ, I'm going to stop talking right now? Did anything like that ever happen to you?
No, I mean,
Because I could just see Mark Maron kind of walking and be like, all right, okay, nope.
well, no, and again, I never used TMZ as a real credit. Sometimes a host would, because like I didn't realize
that's what they know about
like,
you. Yeah.
That's what they know about me, and to them, they think that helps with their audience and stuff like that. It never really impacted my comedy as much. But like I did find myself in a couple of situations where I, like, you know, when I was in LA, one of my friends is like a photographer for Getty, and she was photographing a party at like a pretty famous comedy writer and podcaster's house, and people like Sarah Silverman were there, and Craig Robinson, and Weird Al Yankovic, and Adam Scott, and some of the cast from It's Always Sunny, and I felt
that's awesome.
Andy Richter, Matt Walsh, like it was a wild, and I'm just like, and like there were maybe 100,
a lot of up and comers in that
list. maybe 150 people total at this house party. But my friend was the Getty photographer. She knows I'm a comedian. We were also supposed to hang out that night, so like she was like, come pick me up and just walk into the house. And I walked in, and literally like Adam Scott was like right there, like literally that's the first person I saw. But I felt like I couldn't talk to any of them, because I felt like if it came up like, what do you do, I would have been like, because like I could say, oh, I'm a comedian, I mean, but it's also like,
I don't mind saying I'm a comedian. Like when I was working in that world, obviously I'm not working for TMZ. I'm a production coordinator for live TV and that kind of stuff. But I would always default to stand up, because I felt that it was more relatable to actors and talk like. Especially when I met like A-list celebrities or whatever, that was when like Glenn Close, once we were doing this play, and Glenn Close was like, I bought you guys a bar for the night. We were all just like, Glenn Close, right? And then she hung out with us, and you know she's drinking, and I was the last person she talked to by the end of the night, so she's hammered, but very sweet, still very composed. And I said, and I'm talking to her, and I said something like, I didn't even bring up stand-up. Someone else was like, oh, Will does stand-up. And I was talking, and she was like, oh, I think that's the bravest thing anyone can do. And I just remember being like, you're Glenn Close. Like, shut up. Like, just, like, I was like, you're amazing, you know? But it's this weird thing when you try and connect to them, you're like, you're so far removed from where I'm at. I'm so far removed where you're at. Like, I don't know what to say to you. Really,
and it's like, and I could,
but I'm not going to say I'm from TMZ. I know that.
Well, it's like, and I could say, oh, I do stand up to avoid it, but then later on, if it comes out, oh, I also work at TMZ. Oh, so you didn't tell me that at the top, and you're like, oh, well, yeah. It's like, and
then it cuts to you, and you're like wearing glasses all of a sudden, and like you got like a hoodie on, and you're like trying to hide and blend in the background. So it's my name's actually Tavern.
So it was kind of a weird, kind of interesting thing like that. But yeah, I mean, there was definitely a lot of, especially in LA, you tell people, I don't know. I mean, it's weird, right? Because a lot of people in LA work in the industry, and if you work in LA in any capacity where you have a client, chances are, if I tell you that I work at TMZ, you're going to be like not totally into talking to me.
Right, unless you're Mark Cuban.
And a lot of people I was able to like really be like, listen, like everything you tell me is like off the record. Like I'm not that guy. Like I'm not gonna go tell my editor something.
Turns on the recorder.
Want me to?
I'm not that
unless
guy.
I have to, and I don't want to come to you unless like we have to. It's like, it's like I wasn't chasing like, and that's one reason why I wasn't the biggest cultural fit there, was I wasn't chasing like breaking news. I was more like just trying to do lighthearted stuff. Like,
you want to ruin people's lives.
The whole goal at TMZ is to break news, right? Like a story.
Why can't it be about
good
things?
Out there.
Well,
they want to get the exclusive.
News.
Right, and they want to get the exclusive, but that could also mean like Seth MacFarlane granting an epic Make-A-Wish, right? That's also
right. And I'd rather hear about that every day.
An exclusive. And so I was chasing that beat. Like
got
who's
you.
donating
Yeah,
what this Thanksgiving.
I
You
love
know,
that.
and
Yeah.
it just wasn't a cultural fit. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
No, I
And
get you.
but because of that, I had that approach. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I did walk away from TMZ with some friends and some contacts and some people that like I we did good work with each other. There was integrity, and I could still call on them, and they appreciate that about me because they know what I was dealing with from up here, and so like I tried to do that gig, with by keeping integrity, to the best of your ability. Because
that's awesome. Because you definitely could have gone the other route. You know what I mean? So,
right.
Well, and I mean, if you look at any kind of media right now, if you're breaking news on somebody, if you're cracking an egg open, chances are,
it's
you
not great.
complete? Yeah, did you have complete integrity in getting that story? Maybe, maybe not. You know what I mean?
Depending on the story, sure.
In the world of we're breaking news, it's like, you're. So it can be.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm like,
I love that Evan moment of like, we're about to go down this rabbit hole.
No, I had to walk away. I had to just walk away from it,
Yeah.
Well, at least it also wasn't like a veiled experience, like with the New York Times, like there's always this veiled well, we're breaking this news, whatever, and it's like, well, now I'm confused about where you stand, right? TMZ, at least, like, for whatever it was, they weren't really holding any punches. They're pretty much being who they are, and like, I'm not like I get home from work and I'm like, well, let's see what's going on with whoever on TMZ. I'm not just like, I want to see what's going on with Brad Paisley. Like, it's not like that. But at least, like, I wouldn't be shocked if they're not going to put anything out there that I'm going to be like, I can't believe TMZ's saying this or doing this, or, like,
right. At this point, you're like,
it's consistent. All right, so you've been in Nashville for over a year. You're having a great time. How's your comedy experience been so far?
Yeah, comedy experience has been good. I mean, it's been, because I'm at this point now where I feel like I've got like 30 minutes that could be stretched to longer, and it's been good to be able to do longer sets and to kind of perform, and again, just be performing in the South again.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, I think it's been great. I mean, the goal moving forward is to just get on the road more, doing exactly the kind of stuff you guys are doing, out there, just self-producing and, just spreading the good word, doing your thing. And, because I mean, that's the way to do it in a lot of ways is, you got to route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want to take over my credit card debt at any point, I'll give you spots and you just take on the debt.
I mean, the people here are incredibly nice. The scene, like I said, the stakes are high here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's growing.
And that's exciting about it is you can do comedy, you can enjoy your life, and the stakes are high, and and I always go through this weird thing, because I started doing comedy at 18. I don't know if other people go through the same thing, but I'm always every 5 years like I'm a different person. And so I'm always having to start over, and I'm okay with it because I'm all about the longevity and all that stuff. And I don't want to be the same comic that I was when I was like 21 or 22, like now,
I give you that. I feel like I'm finally easing into my final form almost.
Your personality's on stage. Yeah.
And I actually it's weird to say this, but at 36, I finally feel comfortable where I'm at in life, you know what I mean? That I'm starting to be able to channel that into also being that comfortable person on stage.
Yeah. And it's more relatable, and people can, because that's one thing you do so well on stage, Drew, is you're you on stage.
Yeah. And it's so crazy that it takes so long to get there.
And I think Evan's the same way, where it's like Evan doesn't get off and then starts talking to somebody. Everyone's like,
who are you?
Where was the guy on stage? Where's that guy at? I want to hang out with that guy. Yeah. You both are very consistent with your personalities.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
And
I think that's where you find the success. You know what I mean?
It's and same to you, Will. I mean, in the same regard, and that's where I think I feel like right now, like I'm at the beginning stages of like the comedian that I am to become. And so it's a bit,
yeah.
And that I want to become, and it is a bit messy right now. It's like it's
Sure.
but I'm
as
but
it should be.
I'm
But
I'm trying to like open myself up to where I'm like, listen, I have to be honest with myself every step of the way,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so
because audience can
so
tell, man. They can tell if you're not maybe
when
not
you're
into it, or you're not being genuine. Like they can tell.
And
Or
right
you're just
now, I'll say,
stressed.
but right now, I'll say,
Sometimes that works.
Yeah.
It's right now the thing that's most motivating to me about kind of what I'm doing on stage is like I sometimes when I don't think I have anything funny to say, just going up there and rambling, people are finding it funny, and that's
mining the funny out of whatever it is.
Yeah. And that's never been a place where I've been at where people were like,
that's good.
Oh, you were just, and a lot of it is in delivery and tone of voice and just being able to like be present. Like that was something that like I had kind of a hard time with or wasn't being mindful of. And now I'm trying to like be present. And even if I'm going up there and maybe I don't have any new material or anything like that, like just by being present, it's
like finding a new bit in an old joke.
I'm finding confidence in just, I'm actually a comedian now, maybe. Like finally, like
I'm finally a comedian now. Maybe it just should be the title of everyone's autobiography.
Well, it looks like you're getting your producer shoes back on here in Nashville. So tell us about Glazed and is it Glazed and Crazed?
Oh
Glazed
my God,
and
sorry,
Crazed.
we forgot to mention.
Yeah. So we got me and Carl Roberts the third,
CR3.
Yep.
We're doing a new show in the heart of East Nashville, right near 5 Points at the Donut Distillery. Show's
also
called
2 blocks from me.
Also 2 blocks from Will, across from Dino's. Glazed and Crazed. It's at Donut Distillery. We're doing it the second Friday of every month. So this month is December 10th.
Okay.
The last one that we did was, the first one, and a really great crowd. Sold out.
Jeff Tate.
So yeah.
Amy Miller.
Jeff Tate. Yeah, Amy Miller, Liddy Popovich.
It's amazing.
It was awesome.
It's a great show.
It was awesome.
It's a great show.
So if people want to buy tickets, they can go to deweycomedy.com. DEWEY.
We'll put the link up for everybody.
DeweyComedy.com. This is going to become a Dewey show no matter what.
Yeah.
And then, I'm also producing a, like a little web series y'all mentioned at the top, a little interview. We got some episodes up. It's called Show and Tell. We bring people on that do interesting stuff to just do a classic kindergarten style show and tell.
I love it.
It's got a little edge to it. It's got a little bite to it.
The John Hickok episode's still my favorite.
Yeah.
Just so the grenade just brings a grenade on. Just, it's a grenade.
So we got to get more episodes fired up, but we're stoked just about, one of the things coming into Nashville this year was let's just have a year of getting things set up. Let's get some things. Let's have some what do they call it? Proof of concepts set up, and then see what's sticking. I feel good about what's up and what's about to stick. But yeah, I mean the Donut Distillery show. Hoping that the owners there are great. They have these amazing miniature donuts. They have beer. They have liquor. I mean, it is a cool spot.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that's awesome, man. Well, I got a feeling
free parking.
That's called Gluttony Central.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I got a feeling you're going to be a captain on a Stone Cold Sober team here before too long, man. So got some shows in your future in 2022. So
I'd love to hear that, man.
Well, good, man. Well, where all can they find you on social media? Where can they follow you?
Man, yeah. Luckily, there aren't too many Evan Berkes with my last name. So EvanBerke on Instagram, Evan Berke, and then my website, evanberke.com.
You have a website?
That's oh yeah.
You gotta have a website.
I know I have a website. I didn't know Evan had a website.
Oh yeah, my name.
My name. Those proud moments.
There's some stuff on there. Got a lot of TMZ clips on there. A lot of those TMZ clips on there.
Okay, all right.
A lot of episodes of Show and Tell on there.
Nice.
So follow on YouTube. I didn't know you had a website.
Yeah, so we're up there.
I love it, man. Well, Will, what about you? Where can they find you on social media?
Oh, they can find me at GoDaddy.com.
Oh,
No, you can find it at WillAbelsComedy.com. It's where I post all my shows and all that good stuff. And then just on Instagram at WillAbelsComedy. You can find me on OnlyFans. No, okay. And then you can just Venmo me at WillAbels.
Sliding the Venmo in right here.
I am so broke.
Well, check me out on DrewHarrisonComedy.com. It's got links to everything. You can, as always, you can find past episodes of My Funny Friends wherever you listen to podcasts. We're up on Apple, Spotify, Red Radio, like all those great podcast streams. Click subscribe on our YouTube channel. And as always, like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Yeah.
My funny friends, my funny